into it. Welcome, everyone. Thank you all for joining us on our ReEnergized webinar today. So we'll be chatting about clean energy and clean energy solutions and different projects that are going on around Canada. And then we'll have some great discussions, hopefully, and play some games together as well. Okay. All right. So I would like to start off our presentation today with a land acknowledgement. So I'd like to acknowledge that I am presenting today from the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, Mississaugas of the Scugog, the Anishinaabeg, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, which is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. I'd also like to acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. Okay, so my name's Maria. I am the Environmental Education and Engagement Coordinator with Green Learning. So I'll be walking you through our webinar today. And if you haven't heard of Green Learning already, I'll tell you a little bit about us. So we are an organization that provides students and teachers just like yourselves with tons of free resources on climate change, sustainability, the green economy. They're all designed to be very, very interactive and engaging, very hands-on activities and things like that for you to kind of engage with and just empower you to create a more positive change for your world. So definitely check us out whenever you have the chance. So to get started on our re-energized webinar today, I want to hear from you first. I would like to know what you think of when you hear the word energy. So what do you think of? What comes to mind? There are no right or wrong answers here. How does energy help you? How does energy help others? How do we use it every day? Where does it come from? Things like that. So just anything you think of when you hear the word energy, you can either unmute yourselves and share your ideas with us, or you can share your ideas, send them into the chat below, and we'll have a little discussion. And I'll just put up 2 minutes on the, no, we'll put up 3 minutes on the timer over here. So I'll let you go ahead and have some little chats in your class. Oh, okay, we already have some answers. Speed, that's a good one. I did not think of that. Okay, electricity, power, lights, the amount of energy a human has. Nice. Solar power, awesome. Ooh, light. Yeah, that's really good too. What else? Battery and electronics. Awesome. Electricity, power. Any other thoughts? These are awesome. You're all on the right track here. We're going to be talking about a lot of these things today, which is great. So I'm glad you're already thinking about it. Turbines. Awesome. Yep. Wind. The power of wind. Yeah. Plants have energy. They also need energy to grow. Light, computers, yeah, all things that are around you in your schools too, right? Uh-huh. Water can make energy, yeah. Wow, we have such a smart group here with us today. Food can give you energy. Yeah, definitely. Feel a lot stronger after you have your breakfast. We have just about 1 minute. Ooh, fossil fuels. Yeah. Yep. That's another way we get a lot of our electricity and energy. Wind energy. Yep. Ooh, solar panels. Hydroelectricity, yes. So that's where we're using the power of water, right? Any last minute ideas? We have about 30 seconds-ish. Sound energy, okay. That's really cool. Atoms, yeah. Sun and light energy, gas. Yeah, these are all very fantastic ideas here. You're killing it. Okay. Awesome. So a lot of the things that you have shared with us today are things we're going to be going through during this presentation, which is awesome. So I'm glad you're already kind of thinking about all of this. Okay. So I want you to imagine that the sun is like a giant light bulb in the sky. Okay. And you have to bring that light down to earth to power things like your home, your school, and your cars. So how do you do this? All right. So humans have actually created ways to be able to do this, to be able to use the sun's power to create electricity for us, right? So I'm sure you've seen solar panels and things around before. A lot of you mentioned solar power and the power of the sun in our discussion earlier, which is awesome. So each of these solar panels is usually made up of tiny little cells called PV cells. So they're photovoltaic cells, and they're really good at absorbing the sun's light and energy to create electricity for us. So an individual tiny little cell on its own will be able to create just enough power to maybe power up a small calculator. So I'm not sure if you've seen those little calculators that have that little powers, the PV cell or the little solar cell on them, but that's kind of what's powering that calculator. And you'll see that if you kind of cover it up and remove that light source that's hitting that panel, the numbers on that calculator will slowly start to fade away. So very cool stuff. If you have a wide kind of array of all of these panels, of all of these cells that are laid out on a bigger panel, you're able to create a lot more electricity to power things much bigger than a small calculator. So you can use that to power up those portable road signs that you might see along the highways. You might be able to power up a lamp or something in your home, and a lot of things in remote areas as well, right? So places that are kind of further away from cities and things like that. So I did want to share this really cool example of a solar farm that's being built here in Canada. This is one of the largest solar panel projects, solar farm projects that's kind of Indigenous owned. So this is in Anaheim Lake, British Columbia. And so over here, they are building a huge off-grid solar farm. So this means that they're not relying on our power grid, which is where we get electricity from in the cities. They're creating their own. And so these huge solar panels are going to take in that sun's light and energy and create electricity, and they'll be able to power up tons and tons of homes just in that area, which is awesome. And then if you do want to explore solar energy a little bit more and kind of understand how it all works and how we're able to harness the sun's light and energy to create electricity and to create movement and energy for ourselves, you can check out some of these activities that we have on our website. So we have a activity here where you can build a model of a solar powered car. So you have a solar panel on your car, and if you put it under direct sunlight, you'll see the car will start to move. And that's just happening with the power of the sun, which is really cool. You can also build a solar oven, which is super exciting. So you can kind of set this up. It'll walk you through step by step how to do this. And you can maybe make some s'mores and things for yourselves. So you can melt some marshmallows and chocolates. So it's lots of fun. Definitely check those out. And these are free resources for you to access on our website as well. Okay, so now what I want you all to do is take a deep breath in, so in through your nose. All right, and then take a nice deep breath back out. And tell me what you feel. What's kind of moving in and out of your body? So you can either unmute yourselves or send into the chat what you're feeling as you're breathing deep in and out. So as you take that nice deep breath in and out again, what's moving in and out of your body? Oxygen and carbon dioxide, yeah. Air, yes. You can feel the air, right? So you're breathing in the air, you're breathing it back out, you can feel it. That is awesome. And that is going to lead us to our next renewable energy source here. So we're going to talk about the power of wind and air. Oh, you feel relaxed and calm. Good. I definitely needed a deep breath as well. You feel good, you're getting more oxygen in, always a really good thing to kind of practice as well, right? So wind energy, not only is it going to help you feel calm and relaxed when you take these deep breaths in, but you're also able to use it to create electricity. And some of you mentioned that during our discussion earlier, which is great. So I'm sure you've seen wind turbines whenever you go out, especially in kind of more rural areas where there are big fields. So these tall wind turbines, they have these three blades that are spinning as the wind kind of hits them. And when they do that, these blades are connected to a motor inside, which is connected to a generator. And so as this generator spins, it creates electricity. So that spinning motion, that mechanical motion, is what's creating that electricity for us. And once that electricity has been created, it'll go down the tower, the wind turbine tower. So there's lots of wires and stuff inside that are carrying all of that electricity. And that electricity will go to a nearby storage site and it'll be stored and then eventually sent out for people to use the electricity, right? So this is that mechanical energy that's being converted into electricity. Wind turbines now are also really, really easy for us to just set up. They're very inexpensive as well. They're not too, you don't have to spend too much money on them, which is nice. Here in Ontario, we do have a really, really big wind farm. So there are 87 wind turbines on this farm. This is at a First Nations community, just northern Ontario kind of area. And this turbine, this farm is able to produce enough electricity to power about 100,000 homes across Ontario. So that's a really, really big amount of homes that they're able to kind of provide electricity to. And the nice thing about wind energy and solar and all of the energy sources that we'll be talking about is that they're very clean, they're very renewable energy sources. We can always use it. We always have wind, we always have the sun. So these are things you can constantly use without creating any of those dirty kind of gases or pollution that goes out into the environment. And then to explore our wind energy and things like that a little bit more, you can also check out our wind turbine simulator on our website as well. So this is a way for you to kind of see um, how wind speed and the direction of wind will change the wind turbine and how much electricity it's able to produce. And then you can also actually build your own wind turbine model as well. So it'll kind of work and spin around once you follow the steps that are in here. Um, oh yes, and then I did want to show you this video. So this is of a wind farm that's out in the Middle East, and this is a really, really big wind farm, and this is just kind of like a construction site that they're showing us. So I'll play this video, I'll mute it, so if you don't hear anything, it's all good. And I'll just kind of walk you through a little bit of this. This is just a 360 VR virtual reality video that's on YouTube. And so this guy here is just going to walk us through this farm, and you can just kind of play around with this as well. It's very interactive. So you're able to see just how tall this wind turbine is compared to this guy standing here, right? And then as we go down a little bit more into the video, you'll see this is the site of the wind turbine. So this is that base. This is where that tall tower will go into. So they're just putting together this base right now. All right. And then you can just see these different views. Super, super cool to see how everything looks like from all the way up here. All right. And then you can see just how far apart the other wind turbines are as well. Okay. And then over here, this is another construction site. And so you'll see that those blades that are on the wind turbines, so they have 3 blades. And so they're super, super long. You'll see that it starts somewhere around here. And they're just kind of walking along it, and you keep going and going and going. And then there's the end of that, right? And so this is where they're kind of building this. Okay. Super cool to see just how big these are. When you look at them from far away, I don't think they look as big as they really are, which is really cool. But yeah, definitely feel free to check this video out as well. It's very, very interesting. So we're going to switch gears for a second over here, and I want you to think about your favorite food. Maybe it's pizza, maybe it's a big fat burger. Think about your favorite food and think about how you feel after you eat it. What happens to the food after you eat it, and how do you feel once you've eaten it? This is something some of you have mentioned earlier, but I'll let you have this discussion and send in your thoughts into the chat here. So how do you feel when you eat your, oh, okay, pizza, you feel full. Okay, nice. What else? Ooh, hot dogs. You feel delightful. Okay. What else? There was a word someone used earlier. Ooh, butter chicken. Nice. You guys are making me hungry. You feel satisfied. Okay. What else? Okay, yeah, chicken noodle soup. You feel warm, always good on a cold day. It goes down into your digestive system. Yep. Oh, your mom's dumplings. They're really filling, and three make you full. Okay, so they're very filling. They make you feel refreshed. Maybe they're making you feel a lot stronger as well, right? I don't know about you, but when I wake up first thing in the morning, oh, okay, turkey makes you tired. Okay, I get that. But when I wake up first thing in the morning and I haven't eaten anything yet, I feel a little groggy and a little lazy. And then as soon as I eat, I feel a lot stronger. I feel refreshed. Meatballs, okay. Yep. Yeah, so you feel very satisfied and refreshed and full. You have lots of energy, right? So once you eat a nice big meal, you're going to feel very energized. Hopefully, you feel a lot stronger than you did before. Yeah, a breakfast sandwich, very energized. Yes, that's the word I'm looking for. Your acid, yep, breaks it down. Lots of different systems and stuff in your belly that are breaking down all of that food. So the reason why I'm asking about this is because our next renewable energy source is very similar to how we feel once we've eaten food and what happens to the food when it goes down into our digestive system. So the more you eat, the stronger you feel. You feel a lot more energized. You can think better. And just like this, biomass energy is something that works very similar to that as well. So it's kind of like a big stomach that's digesting all of this plant and animal waste and all of this stuff, and it's creating energy. Just like how you feel more energized after eating. When we use biomass energy when we like break down a lot of these plants and animals, we're able to create energy. Okay, so bioenergy is kind of like that big stomach that's breaking down all of that plant and animal waste. So things like wood waste as well, which we'll talk about in just a second, they're all being broken down to create electricity. So a site like this is going to take lots of plants and animals and wood, agricultural waste as well, and it's going to create a steam in these big facilities where they'll be able to turn a turbine. So whenever you're spinning a turbine, you're able to create that electricity, right? So they're using this plant and animal waste to do that. Landfills are another really great source of biomass energy as well. There's lots of food and plant matter and things like that that's being broken down in a landfill. And as it's breaking down, it's creating this gas, which can be used to create electricity. So a really cool example of a biomass energy facility being used is here in Canada. So this is in Saskatchewan in Meadow Lake. So this site over here, this picture down here, you can see this was or still is a sawmill. So a sawmill is where you're cutting down trees, you're bringing them in, you're processing them and turning them into something called lumber. And then that lumber gets sent out to a bunch of different places across the country where people then use it to turn it into things like tables and desks and furniture and all of that. So it's a really, really big industry here in Canada. But what they were doing at the sawmill is once they were done processing those logs into lumber, they were creating lots and lots of waste. So things like the bark from the trees, sawdust, wood chips as well. These were all things that were just going to waste. They were not using them for anything. And so they would put this in this giant kind of cone-shaped tower where they would burn it and it would just release lots and lots of smoke out into the environment, pollution, which is not so good for our atmosphere, not so good for the people around it that are breathing it in. So what they decided to do is they built a bioenergy facility here at this site. So now what they do is all of that extra wood waste, all of that bark, all those wood chips and things like that, they go into this facility where they burn it at a very, very high temperature. And when they burn it, it creates lots of steam and smoke. They have these special filters in this facility as well that will trap all of those pollutants and all of those chemicals and stop them from going out into the atmosphere. And so they'll burn it and they're able to create energy through that. And they're able to power about 5,000 homes just in that area through that burning of the wood waste. And so the nice thing about this is now they're using every single part of that tree. Nothing is going to waste. There's no pollution that's being created. So it's a super, super cool project. Definitely look it up if you are interested or if you ever get the chance. But yeah, so now instead of kind of any part of the tree going to waste, all of it gets used, which is really good. Okay. So we're creating all of this electricity and energy through these kind of clean sources that we've talked about. So solar, wind, biomass energy. Some of you mentioned hydroelectricity as well. So using water power. So it's great that we're creating all of this electricity, but it has to go somewhere as well, right? We're not constantly using it. It needs to be stored somewhere. It has to be kept somewhere. And this is where energy storage comes into play, right? So we talked about how those wind turbines have those wires running down, carrying the electricity. They're going to be sent into a nearby storage facility where all that electricity will be stored, and then sent out to be used later. Okay, so another great example of energy storage is batteries, right? So you might use batteries to plug into your games or your clocks or I don't know, any other kind of electronic or whatever you have, so that you can kind of continue to power it up for a little bit. So batteries are really, really cool. And then I did want to show you this video over here. This is an example of some students that built a battery using pennies. So small little coins, they were able to put them together and they powered up these little cars over here. So I'll show you this video, and we'll just see how they were able to do that.
Battery with LED light produces electrical current in it. It consists of a zinc washer on the bottom and then cardboard dipped in vinegar and a penny, and you repeat that process over and over again. All of these were old gnomes using them. We've reused everything in here except for the electrical paint. Except for that, that's the only thing. Everything after, once you use these items in the penny bank, you can reuse them afterwards. It's sustainable because of the reusing everything, and it's not no toxic emissions.
There's tons of pennies out there that aren't in circulation anymore, so they have to be used for something.
It has to be used for something, so you make a penny battery, and if expanded, the more pennies, the more levels you go, the higher the voltage, the higher the flow. So this could be expanded and be used as a charge phones, charge anything. You charge them, charge it.
Oh. Oh no! It's not stealing it. Move it, move it. No, stop moving anymore. I see me one time. I want to go.
Necessary for achieving
Good fun. Something.
Oh, okay, there we go. Yeah, so you can see how they were able to use pennies to create these batteries to power up their cars and things like that. Very, very cool. This is another activity that we have on our website as well, so definitely check it out. Okay, so we're going to play a game of true or false over here. So I have a couple of questions. There will be some statements that come up onto your screen. If you think that they're true, put your thumbs up. If you think they're false, put your thumbs down. If you're not too sure, maybe just to the side. And teachers, you can enter the majority response into the poll that shows up onto your screen. So our first question here, solar panels do not work on cloudy days. So do we think this is true or false? Another second or two. All right, so it looks like some of you said true, there's some false. Let's see. So this is false. So solar panels are, even on the cloudiest of the days, there is still some light that's coming through. So they are still able to produce electricity, but just at a much lower rate than they would be able to if it was a super, super bright sunny day. Okay. All right, so burning coal or fossil fuels, as some of you mentioned, is a form of renewable or clean energy. So is this true or false? Okay, couple more seconds. All right, so we have mostly false. Okay, so burning coal is a very dirty, very non-renewable source of energy. You're burning these coals and fossil fuels and things like that. They're creating lots and lots of dirty pollution that goes out into the atmosphere, goes out into the air, which is not healthy for anyone or any of the plants or animals that are around there. So it is a form of non-renewable energy. Okay, hydropower or water power is the oldest form of a renewable energy. Is this true or false? Okay. Looks like we have all truths all around. That is great. Awesome. So hydropower, water power is one of the oldest forms of renewable energy that we've used. Things like water wheels have been used for thousands of years to help create energy. So it's been around for quite a long time, which is great. Okay. And then we have you can generate electricity from food waste. So are we able to generate electricity from food waste? Yeah. Another second or two here. Okay. Let's reveal the answer here. So this is true. So we talked about how food gives us energy, and through biomass energy and biomass facilities and things, we're able to create electricity through food that's being broken down or agriculture, so farmland and things like that, and any kind of biological waste. So any kind of plant or food can be broken down to create electricity. Okay. All right. And then we have electricity can be stored in batteries to be used later. Is this true or false? Right. Perfect. You are all correct. So electricity can be stored inside of batteries. We talked about about how they're very good at energy storage. They're good energy storage devices. So it's something that we can store our electricity into and kind of continue using for quite a while until that battery eventually runs out. But yeah, awesome. Great job, everyone. So we are going to now talk about the journey of energy, right? So we've talked about all these clean, renewable energy sources, and energy is something that has been on our planet forever, right? It's been here way before we were here. It'll be here long after, and it doesn't just appear out of thin air. So it's like a gift from our planet, right? So it starts with the sun and the water. It starts with our plants and our trees and grass and wind as well. Okay, and so we've learned that we are able to use all of this to be able to create electricity for ourselves, which is a pretty cool thing to be able to do. But all of these energies that have been on Earth for so long, these are things that have been used by people even before we had all of this fancy technology to be able to turn it into electricity. Okay, so we'll talk about some of those uses that people have used all of this Earth's natural energy for. So I want to ask you first, before I start talking about some examples, is how would you use the sun's energy? Or what would you use the sun's energy for? So you can share any of your thoughts or ideas in the chat, and then we'll talk about some of the other ways as well. Yep, for heating, definitely. If you sit out on the sun, you'll probably feel a lot warmer than you would if you were in the shade. Oh, vitamin D, yeah, definitely. I'll give you a couple more seconds. Okay. All right, so if you think of more ideas, keep them coming in. Oh, to grow a garden, yeah, definitely need the sun to be able to do that. So these are some traditional indigenous ways that people have used, that indigenous communities have really used the sun's power and energy for themselves. So things like heat, you mentioned, so warming up their homes. A lot of their homes and their buildings and things like that are designed in a way to capture as much of the sun's energy as possible so that they're kind of heating up their rooms and things like that in a very natural way. We have things like dehydrating their food and things, so just leaving it out in the sun to dry it up and to use it later. Yeah, vitamin D, good food from the earth. Yep. So a lot of that food you can dry up and continue to use. You can preserve it, which is great. And then these are some of the ways that we've continued to use the sun's energy through our new technologies and things that we've developed. So we now have food dehydrators that are powered by the sun. So it's very, very similar to what was being done over here, but just kind of in a more little machine type thing. So it's powered by the sun and it's drying up your food for you to be able to preserve. We talked a lot about these solar panels and solar farms that we're able to use to harness the sun's energy to create electricity, which is great. And then you have like these bigger solar farms with lots and lots of panels that are producing huge amounts of electricity. Okay, so how would you harness the power of water? What would you use the power of water for? So this can be anything at all. A water wheel, yeah, we talked about that as well. Electricity, gardening, yep. Drinking, cleaning, showering, yep. These are all things that you would use your water for, right? Awesome. Okay. All right, so now we'll talk about some of these more traditional indigenous uses. So things like water wheels you mentioned. So these are kind of, using the water to spin a turbine to create some power. And then you also have things like looking at the pattern of where the fish are going in the water as well to create fish weirs. So these are kind of little roads that they're able to create by looking at the pattern of the water to try to capture fish to eat, which is super cool. And then these are some of our technologies that we use today. So we're able to kind of create these really big hydro dams where you kind of block off a section of the water, and then all of that rushing water kind of is able to spin those turbines and things very, very similar to something like this and create electricity for tons and tons of people. Right, so Niagara Falls, if any of you have been there, there is a dam over there as well. Very, very cool example of this water being used at a very, very big scale to create lots of electricity. Okay, what about the power of plants and trees? What do you think you would use those for? For shelter, yeah, for shelter or shade, biomass, awesome. To get wood or bamboo to build a shelter with. Maple syrup, yes, my favorite. Electricity, yeah. So through those biomass facilities, right? Awesome. Yep, to build a fire. Yeah. For food, yep, definitely. That's a good one as well. So if you, as long as you know what you're looking for and you're kind of very familiar with different plant and tree species and stuff, you can definitely find food sources. Organic shelter cottages. Ooh, that's a good one. For oxygen, yeah, that's a really important one as well. Awesome. So I'm going to share a couple of indigenous traditional uses as well. So things like using them to create fire. Some of you mentioned burning that wood to create heat. And you can also kind of use different plant and animal fats and things like that for cooking and heating as well. And yeah, and then controlled fires. So this is a really big thing when you're trying to make sure that your forest ecosystem is very healthy. If you're able to have like a controlled fire, you can kind of regenerate and create a healthier tree forest ecosystem. Okay. And then some of our more modern evolving technologies as well. So things like biofuels. So we talked about those biogas facilities that are breaking down a lot of plant and animal waste to create electricity, which is great. Okay, and then biofuels as well. So breaking down lots of these plants can create a fuel, which you can actually use to put into your cars and things as a gas, a lot cleaner than the gas that we use today. And then finally, how would you harness or use the power of wind? Yeah, turbines, great example. To cool off when you're hot. A mill. Yes, fly a kite. I was thinking that too. That would be great. On a nice windy day. Okay. Yep, fresh air, very, very important. Taking in a deep breath and then breathing it out. Awesome. Okay. So some of the kind of, ooh, paper airplanes. Yeah, that's always fun. Okay, so some of the more traditional indigenous applications of wind, so they've often been used to, if you look at the direction of the wind, they had so much knowledge, they're able to kind of see different patterns in weather, so different changes in the weather. They can also impact things like hunting season as well. So the direction of the wind will tell you things about animal behaviors and fishing and gathering and things like that too. And then you have some more evolving technology. So we talked a lot about wind turbines. A lot of wind turbines are sometimes built just offshore, so in the oceans and things like that. And so that's where there is a lot more wind as well. So you're able to create a lot more electricity. Okay. All right. So we're going to chat a little bit about electric vehicles now as well. So we talked a lot about these kind of energies that we have that come from nature and help us power our world. You also want to think about how you can use all of this in an efficient way. Okay, so one of the biggest ways that we rely on energy, one of the biggest things that we use energy for is transportation. So things like cars and buses and trucks, a lot of these things run on fossil fuels usually, so dirtier kind of gases and oils that are not so good for our environment. But something like electric vehicles are becoming a lot more common now as well. So they're not creating too much smoke or pollution or anything like that. So what I want you to do after this, this is just kind of a little challenge that I have for you, is think about electric vehicles and think about your own kind of electric vehicle design, and how you would design your car based on the community that you live in. So if you live somewhere that's maybe more remote, maybe there's more kind of gravelly roads or dirt roads and things like that, you want to think about what kind of wheels you might put on your electric vehicle. You want to think about maybe the climate that you have and maybe even if you're living in a super, super busy city where the roads are very, very busy all the time, maybe you'll create a flying electric vehicle or something like that, right? So I'll leave this with you to kind of design on your own as a group, as a class, and come up with some cool ideas. Okay. And then before I let you go, I do just want to tell you about a couple of different programs that we have as well. So we have our e-cards program. So as some of you might know, April is Earth Month, and this is a great time for you to get your messages on helping the environment out to a bigger audience. So you're able to kind of come up with an artwork or a message that's very important to you, maybe based on something that you learned today, maybe something about using more clean, renewable energy sources. So you can create an artwork, you can write a message or a poem, and you can send that into us using the link that Katie has sent below, and send that into us. And that's a great way for you to share your message with a much bigger audience, right? So we'll put that message of yours onto our website to share with lots of more people. We'll also try to share it with a leader in our country or someone else who has lots of power and is able to make a change based on some of your messages. It's a really, really great way to get your voice across, especially in Earth Month when we're trying to be more sustainable and environmentally friendly. And then I also want to challenge you to take our Re-Energy Challenge. So we have talked lots about solar powered ovens and cars and wind turbines and biogas systems and things like that. We talked a little bit about electric vehicles. So these are all things that you can work on. You can do a project on these. You can build your own model of a solar oven or a solar car, and you can send this into us using the links that have been sent below. You can also, teachers, just scan the QR code that's on your screen there. And so as a class, you'll work together on a project. You can submit that into us for a chance to win up to $1,000 for your class as well, which is always very, very exciting. And this is just a super cool way for you to get more familiar with these clean energy systems and see how they really work and understand why they're so important for us. Okay, so definitely check that out. We would be really excited to see all of your project and all your great ideas that you come up with. I can tell just from our webinar here today that you all have some really, really good ideas, which is awesome. So we would love to hear about all of those. And then I would like to also just point out the student survey that we have here. So the link has been sent below, and there's this QR code on the screen as well. So teachers, if you could fill this out just as a class, it takes less than 5 minutes, just a couple of questions that will kind of encourage you to talk more about what you learned today, what you enjoyed. If there's anything you wish we had talked about, let us know as well. This is a way for us to make our webinars a lot stronger. And then if you do come up with any other questions or anything, you can always connect with us on this email address as well, and we'll try to answer any of your questions that you might have. And yeah, I'm glad you could all join us today. I hope you all learned something new. If you have any questions, let us know. You can send something into the chat. You can also unmute yourselves and share any thoughts or questions that you might have, and I'd be happy to answer them.